We have a new Esper commander, Eriette the Beguiler something. It's a 4-mana cost black, blue, white and 1 generic for a human warlock 4/4 with lifelink. With an ability that reads: whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to that aura's mana value, gain control of that permanent for as long as that aura is attached to it. This means that we're going to steal cards from our opponents. Basically, whenever you attach an aura with a mana value that is higher or equal to a permanent an opponent controls, you will take that permanent. That means that more or less every single aura that you have becomes a spot removal, at the same time as it's giving you value. And this is kind of solving a big problem in the interaction part of multiplayer formats, free-for-all multiplayer formats that is. You see, when you're interacting with an opponent, you're going down one card and that opponent is going one card, you're both trading equally. But the other two opponents are sitting there and losing nothing. So if they continue forward building their board state, you and the opponent you are interacting with are usually left behind, which makes control spot removal strategies into a losing game plan. It works in 1v1, but in free-for-all the mathematical structure doesn't just work out. But this commander removes the entire trading process. You're spending one card, your opponent is losing one card and you're gaining a card. You're going ±0. So if you're interacting with 3 cards at 3 different opponents, all of your opponents are losing 1, while you are going still ±0. In the situation where you're able to trade in that manner. So far it all sounds great. And inside the cEDH format there are a few creatures, and creatures are starting to become a little bit more popular and popular as the creature power creep is becoming a little bit more stronger and stronger inside this format. Esper Sentinel, it's gonna be very easy to steal an Esper Sentinel, and profitable stealing an Esper Sentinel. Orcish Bowmaster, pretty much the same, it's going to be there quite frequently, it's a very popular creature that a lot of opponents are playing, and taking it is good for you, and also quite easy to actually take it. Talion the Kindly Lord, it's a little bit expensive, but yeah, maybe, it depends on it. 4 mana cost is a bit expensive, I don't think you want to have that many auras inside your build that are on that mana curve, but sure, that's a good creature to also steal, depending on how many auras you're including. But let's just say this for this card review's sake, the ability to steal creatures inside the cEDH format is a good thing. That kind of game plan will be working out. But there are 3 major problems with this kind of game plan in the highest top tier of cEDH power level. The first one is really simple. This is a very commander orientated game plan. You need to have your commander in play to make your auras able to do anything. Now, the most important thing to mention here is that auras in general are really bad. So if you don't have your commander in play, you have a bad deck. If you have a commander in play, you have a synergizing deck. Great, that will work out. But there's gonna be a lot of games where your commander isn't going to get into play fast enough or prevent it from coming into play. Draenei Magistrate is quite popular. Another worthy mention is that interacting with opponent's creatures is good, but it's not game determinating or game winning. There's a lot of spellslinger decks with a really low creature count, and that's going to be tricky to interact with if you're focusing down on getting your commander to play as fast as possible, stealing creatures and then swinging for the win. You aren't going to stop everyone. You're going to stop some people and then ignore others, and those you ignore might end up winning the match. And this is where some people could actually argue that this commander is going to be king-making those spellslinger decks. The third, last problem is that it's just too slow. This kind of game plan isn't really going to swing it for the win fast enough. Now, stealing value engines and creatures in general is good, but it's not going to dominate you into a successful win rate, so to say. The part where you're trying to win and you're not interacting with the spellslinger decks, the spellslinger decks are usually just winning faster than you, so you just end up king-making the spellslinger decks in general with this kind of strategy. So as a finalized review, it's not built towards cEDH. It won't function really well inside the cEDH environment. It's just a wrong game plan for it. So I don't recommend this for tournaments. But there is an outside aspect we could actually talk about where it could be somewhat cEDH viable. You see, you can prey on commander-oriented strategies quite heavily with this commander. So let's say you're playing against opponents, your friends in your local game store, and you know that all of your opponents are going to be playing some very heavy commander-oriented commanders. cEDH Weatherlight Captain is a good example of that. Let's say you have an opponent that is cEDH Weatherlight Captain. You could fill your deck with a lot of free CMC auras to make sure that you're always going to steal that cEDH more or less. Every single game you go into with that opponent, you are gonna be the one ending up with a cEDH Weatherlight Captain. And you could view the other opponent's commanders in a similar manner. Stealing Thrasius, stealing Tumnus. Kenrith is just too expensive, never mind that one. But I think you get the point. But if we're starting to look at this card on a lower power level, like in the highly competitive or even casual, the lower do you go in the power level scale, the more prevalent creatures become, so to say. And then the stronger this card or commander becomes, because it's built towards fighting a heavy creature-oriented board state, where you're stealing your opponent's creatures and you are ending up with the entire creature board state, more or less. But that takes us to a fourth problem, and this is only really a problem inside casual. It could become a problem in some cEDH pods too, but you are going to be annoying. People are going to view you as the threat. You see, players' threat analysis is very simple. You are always like aiming your guns usually towards the biggest threat at the table, and is usually the fastest combo deck at the table, usually. Or some people view different commanders on equal power scale, so they will aim their cannons differently on certain commanders, but people are always usually aiming them at what they believe to be the fastest win attempt. But there's one thing that usually takes the aim above that, and that are commanders or players that are interacting with them. You see, people are greedy. They will prioritize having a game themselves than trying to interact with someone that is winning the match. And this is once again why I'm emphasizing that this is a commander that could accidentally kingmake your opponents. Because once you're starting to get the ball rolling, people will interact with you instead of what they believe is the biggest threat of winning the match. Not always true, but usually the case. Which makes it problematic even potentially in casual, depending on the situation and such. So in the end, in cEDH you're going to struggle, and in casual you will end up losing your friends. But I will say this, I do like it. I enjoy that they are trying to make auras into a thing, because looking at all the auras that actually exist in the Magic the Gathering universe, there's a bunch of like auras that are, first of all, never cEDH playable, but they become good with this commander. So I do like that it's enabling dead cards or cards we don't usually play, and that gives some more variety to the format, and that's good. I want to see some boost to various things like auras, that could be cool, and who knows, maybe the cEDH format will develop more forward towards, let's say, a creature orientated format, and then this commander could become better. In any case, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I truly hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.